Our speaker is a veteran speaker this year. Dr. Kamal Jabbour retired from the United States Air Force a year ago. He served as a member of the scientific and professional cadre of senior executives as the Air Force Senior Scientist for Information Assurance. Not a clue what he did. He was the principal scientific authority and independent researcher in the field of information assurance, including defensive information warfare and offensive information warfare technology. He conceived, planned, and advocated for major research and developmental activities, monitored and guided the quality of scientific and technical resources. And he provided expert technical consultation to the senior leadership of the Air Force, the Department of Defense, and the federal government. He is survived by one wife, 2 dogs, 4 telescopes, and 8 grandchildren. Now, I can assure you that we should have the dome full once you listen to Dr. Jabbour. And if you want more dirt on him, as he tells me, the official notice of his official retirement appeared in the Rome Centennial. I have that information if you want it. It took me about a half an hour to read it. He is one amazing veteran, and we are extremely honored and pleased to welcome Kamal Jabbour.
When Linda Lou invited me to share my journey, I wondered what I could say to fill 50 minutes. 15, 1-5, Linda corrected me. And she hinted of unpleasant consequences if I go longer. I was born in Lebanon, in the small village of Shumlain, the third of 4 children. The Antoine monks founded Shumlain in the 12th century as a refuge in the mountains. I was raised a Maronite Christian, learned Aramaic as a teenager, served as an altar boy, and prepared to enter the ministry. We grew up in poverty. My father served in Her Majesty's government as a clerk in the British mission in Beirut after driving a truck for the British Army during World War II. We did not own a car. We wore hand-me-down clothes from my uncles and aunts. My parents instilled in us the most basic value: eat your bread through the sweat of your face. We prayed literally for our daily bread. Paychecks ran out before the end of the month. My uncles helped often. My father developed an obsession with sending his 4 children to college to break the cycle of poverty. The Lebanon of my youth was an ideal capitalist state. There was no income tax, no property tax, no school tax, no sales tax, no gasoline tax. In return, there was no safety net, no unemployment benefit, no welfare, no social security, no health care, no public school, no universal pre-K, and no government subsidy for anything. Lebanon had no oil and no minerals, yet it thrived into the 2nd highest per capita income in the world, thanks to old-fashioned hard work. The family was the center of life in Lebanon. When my uncle lost his job, he moved his family of 6 into 1 bedroom in our house until he found another job. His children returned the favor 20 years later when I came to America. I attended elementary school and high school at the Christian Brothers Academy in Beirut. We all learned Lebanese, Arabic, French, and English from first grade through high school, including grammar, literature, and history of 4 cultures. Uncle George taught me chess in my early teens, and we followed closely the rise of Bobby Fischer to world champion. Uncle George and I played blind chess everywhere we went. Blind chess refers to playing an entire game without a chess set. He taught me to visualize the board and the pieces, to analyze positions and moves, and to play an entire game without a board. Many car trips required unscheduled stops on the side of the road to reconstruct a blind chess game onto the hood of the car and see who mistook a move, as Grandma yelled at us to get back in the car and drive on. Uncle George played good tactics. I resorted to strategy to frustrate him. He liked elegant combinations. I thrived on long games with ugly positions. My dull strategic style took me all the way to 3 national championships and 2 international tournaments. I even received credit for boring to death, figuratively, one opponent who passed out several hours into one of my signature games. I finished a 4-year competitive career without a single draw. I played to win. I forced stale positions into action and wrestled many victories and quite a few losses out of neutral games. I made the most of my geek status in school. I studied and played chess all day, even during class. After school, I rode the bus to my coach's house, where we spent hours analyzing games. I developed a crush on his wife, who did my homework every night, while I focused on studying gambit openings and rook endings. I faced a hard choice at 18, chess or engineering. I chose engineering and retired from chess at top of my game. My nemesis, the grandson of the late Syrian President Kowatli, and the last person I beat in a tournament, stayed with chess, went on to earn an international grandmaster rating as the champion of France. Nevertheless, the strategy of playing stayed with me. At the turn of the century, I used some of that chess skill to help Ed Drexler in coaching the Fabius chess team to the state tournament. With the Drexlers and the Findleys, both powerhouses in chess, we were preparing to win the state championship when all my seniors chose baseball instead. War broke out in Lebanon in the spring of my high school senior year. We graduated unceremoniously. We never returned to school. Our books stayed there. I went on to study electrical engineering at candlelight, ironically, at the American University of Beirut. I witnessed the assassination of my dean, mourned the kidnapping and murders of several teachers and classmates in my college years. 27 of us started, 18 graduated. Defiance and determination drove me to complete 153 credit hours in 3.5 years. I graduated first of my class, married my childhood sweetheart, and left Lebanon to pursue doctoral studies in England. Our stay in England was depressing. When asked if it was always foggy in Manchester, a local answered with indignation, "Of course not when it is raining." Randa was born in Salford and brought sunshine into our lives, plus a hefty child allowance that doubled my 185-pound stipend. The natives reminded us that we were unwelcome. They gave us extra incentive to finish early. I completed my PhD at age 24, packed my baby, and immigrated to America. We landed in JFK on 27 July 1982. Amidst the roaring applause of fellow passengers on the British Airways Boeing 747 that carried us across the Atlantic. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center gave us our first glimpse of freedom. I landed in America with $40 in my pocket and worked every day since to earn my daily bread. In my will, I asked to be buried with $40 in my pocket. My son, Mark, a capitalist, asked if I take a check instead. The cousins who crammed our house 20 years earlier immigrated to America when their father died and sweated in the textile industry in Allentown, Pennsylvania. They greeted us at the airport, hosted us in their house, and drove us to Syracuse in a van full of food that lasted until my first paycheck. Across generations and continents, family, not government, remained the foundation of our life. Syracuse University gave me a faculty appointment and an empty apartment in Slocum Heights. Duncan Bright advanced us a few mattresses, so we did not sleep on the floor. To this day, we buy our mattresses from Duncan Bright and our carrot cake from Syracuse University Bake Shop. The novelty of America faded quickly. I called my father in September. I want to go home. He admonished me to give my family a chance at a better life. I invoked the commandments. I must come home to take care of Mom and you. You will honor us by giving your children a chance at peace. I hunkered down, worked hard to earn tenure. Mark and Paula were born in Syracuse. My bride missed her family, longed to return to Lebanon. She was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer at age 28. And died a few years later. Left me with 3 children. 29 years ago tomorrow, I married a local farm girl to help raise them. We did well for the most part. Randa earned a PhD in entomology and teaches bugs at the University of Wyoming. Mark studied computer engineering and works for a small firm in Virginia. Paula joined the Army as a nurse and now delivers civilian babies in Virginia. They gave us 8 children, numbered 1 through 8. Easier to remember their numbers than their names since they all look alike. Few jobs come close to the comfort and security of a tenured university professor. I imagine myself retiring at 50 years of teaching. Yet September 11 upset my plans and afforded me the privilege to serve. I remember driving to Rome on September 12 and passing an endless convoy of slow-moving army trucks. I began my Air Force journey on loan from Syracuse University. My calling grew louder amidst the uncertainty of war. So I resigned my tenure at Syracuse and joined the Air Force full-time. 2 years later, I received appointment to the Senior Executive Service as the Air Force Senior Scientist for Information Assurance, all things cyber. My job required me to educate the generals on cyber warfare and to create an army of future cyber leaders to carry my legacy. I succeeded at one of the tasks. My job required me to stir the swamp, and boy, did I find unpleasantness living in darkness in the depth of the swamp. In my 20 years of Air Force service, many senior officials referred to me as the lone voice in the wilderness. The first time General Goldfein, our Chief of Staff, called me that, I retorted respectfully, "You know what happened to his head, sir." Gradually, I accepted the yoke of a lone voice in the wilderness as affirmation to continue the fight, and as resignation that my fate will be no different than John's. I lost count how many decapitations I survived, how many drill bits I removed from my tires, and how many threats I ignored. Long before John the Baptist, the prophet Elijah was a lone voice in the wilderness. Elijah was the patron saint of my childhood village in Lebanon. Between Elijah and John, I constructed a picture of loneliness in the wilderness. A lone voice alternates among three frames of mind: self-doubt, withdrawal, and endurance. In the face of persistent, unrelenting, and overwhelming opposing views, the lone voice developed doubt about his own beliefs. The line blurs between truth and falsehood. Self-doubt sets in, leading to withdrawal and isolation. I struggled many times with self-doubt. Can they all be wrong? What if they were right and I was wrong? Has my stubbornness blinded me to the truth? What is the truth anyway? Is truth relative or is it absolute? Although my episodes of self-doubt were few and far in between, these crises tended to last a long time, usually 1 to 2 minutes. And then I would snap out of it, go for a run, and return to the fight. Even Elijah grew tired of the fight. He was afraid. He ran for his life. And when he came to Beersheba and Judah, he left his servant there while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He sat under a brush and prayed that he might die. "I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Withdrawal, isolation, and loneliness brought me quiet time for prayer, reflection, and rebuilding my strength. Running 26.2 miles at 10,000 feet in the wilderness of Yellowstone National Park was a great time for self-pity and prayer. Running 26.2 miles around the rim of Crater Lake in Oregon while bleeding from the face and the limbs and sweat seeping into my wounds was a painful communion with my Savior. With endurance from 86 marathons sustaining me, I fought my fiercest fights after miles of loneliness. Withdrawal and reflection give the lone voice a rare sense of humor and poignant sarcasm. Elijah taunted the prophets of Baal. "Shout louder. Surely he is God. Perhaps he is deep in thought, busy or traveling. Maybe he's taking a nap and must be awakened." I found myself often taunting and mocking my detractors as they shouted louder their ignorance and incompetence, while my inner voice, Marla, reminded me to attack the problem, not the people. As Linda said, I retired from the Air Force last Memorial Day and escaped to my telescopes and the vastness of God's heavenly creation. Yet my fight for God and country continues. One day, my fight will end. My tombstone will tell the story in the words of Paul. "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith."
such